Okay, so now we got the controls down. It's time for us to start making clothes. One thing I forgot to tell you, in the 3D window, the controls, uh, right mouse click, hold it, and you can rotate it. Middle mouse, it's basically it moves the same way Blender does, or is it Second Life? But once you roll your mouse around in here, you'll see you'll just pick it up. You don't have to hold anything like shift or anything. It's all controlled by the mouse. All right, so now that I got that out of the way, let's start by making our t-shirt. The most basic of marvelous designed items. So what we're going to need to do is click on our Polygon pattern tool, and we're going to start at this line right here in the middle. This is called our fold line or our center line, but let's just leave it as a fold line because that sounds more seamstressy. So we're going to go and start by how deep you want the neckline of your t-shirt to be. So like about right here. And then you're going to go over to like the collar up here. Then you're going to move it down to how long you want the sleeve to be. So about here. And then you're just going to determine how tight you want the shirt against the arm. Let me zoom in some more so make it a little bit easier for you to see. I like to make mine a little bit loose. So I always go maybe a half a square down from the actual arm. And then you're going to move it underneath the armpit, and that's going to be our next point. And then from here, you're going to make it how long you want the t-shirt to be. So I think right here about the waist is about fine. Or this is the hips. The waist is up here, hips are down here. And we're going to move it right to the middle of our fold line. And then we're going to bring it back up to the top and connect it. So you should have a t-shirt if you followed that. Now we only have one half of our t-shirt. We're going to just unfold this, and then we're going to make a whole t-shirt front pattern. So you're going to click our edit pattern tool, and you're going to click on the line created in the fold line, and you're going to right click that, and you're going to select unfold from the menu, and it gives you our t-shirt. Now we're going to delete this middle dot right here because we don't need that, and we're going to also delete the top middle dot right here because I like t-shirts to have that sort of swoop and not actual point like a triangle. So we're going to go to our edit curve button here, and we're just going to click on the middle that we just deleted, this line, and then bring it down, and that looks a lot better. So let's turn our sync on so we get to see what it looks like in person in real time over here. And now that we have the front of our t-shirt, we're going to have to create the back pattern for it. So what I'm going to do is right click on our t-shirt here, our t-shirt pattern. You're going to right click and you're going to copy, and then you're just going to push paste. And that gives you the back part of our t-shirt. Now we don't want the collar to be that deep. So you have two options here. You can either select the curvature button and then leave it up so that it has sort of a collar in the back, or you can make it straight and eliminate the collar altogether by clicking on that line and then pressing delete, and it just makes it straight. I don't recommend doing that when you have already done the thing, so let's just leave it like this with a slight swoop in the back. You know, comfort neck, I think that's what those t-shirts are called. So now that we have a front part and the back part of our pattern, we're going to right click on the back and then do the flip horizontally. Anything that has to go behind your avatar in Marvelous Designer 2. I heard that they fixed this in other Marvelous Designers, but I'm not sure. I just do it anyway out of habit. But you definitely got to do this in this Marvelous Designer. So if your pattern has to go behind your avatar, you have to flip it horizontally. Otherwise, the back part of your avatar's garment will be missing, and it'll be invisible because it's inside out. I don't know why Marvelous Designer does that. It's just a glitch or so. But just make sure if it goes behind, you flip it. You flip it horizontally. So once it's been flipped horizontally, we're just going to move it behind our avatar and put it fairly close to their body because of the air drape. We want it to just go. You don't want it so close that their body goes into it. Otherwise, it's going to pull and fuse into their skin, and we don't want that because then we're going to be stuck pulling it out of them. So it's easier just to put it close to their body, but not so close that it's inside of it. So I did that for the back, and we're going to do this for the front right here. And we're going to start our sewing. So once we have our sewing, we're going to go over here to these tools here. These are our sewing tools. This is the edit seam lines, and this is the segment sewing. These are the two you're mostly going to use. Free sewing is amazing. It's fun, but I don't recommend it for beginners because it's like a wild horse. It just goes. So we're going to stick with just segment sewing in this lessons. So I want you to select your segment sewing, and you're going to hover your mouse over an edge of the pattern. And when you do, you'll see that this little lightened bar comes up here. It doesn't matter if it's a different color from mine, because Marvelous Designer shuffles the colors. So as long as there's a little highlight there, you're fine. You're not doing anything wrong. So once you're on the edge, you're going to click on the edge and then move it over to the other edge. And this is going to bring what we call seam lines across your garment. Now you want to always make sure that your seam lines are straight. So if you click on it, and let's say on the other side and do it. If you click on the edge and you do it like this and it comes twisted like this, then that means you made a terrible mistake and you need to fix it and make sure that they're straight. Now the reason why we want to keep them straight is because this is how Marvelous Designer dictates how fabric goes. These lines tell it what to do. It's basically saying take this edge and then bring them together and sew them perfectly. When it's twisted like this, it's telling Marvelous Designer to bring this edge and that edge together and then twist it in the middle, which can be good sometimes for depending on the garment effect, but in most cases it's bad because it will jumble up your garment. So if your garment is bunching up a lot, you may have at the seam line, you may have twisted lines. So let's say you have twisted lines. How do you fix it? Now, you could just press Control Z and undo it and then re-sew your lines and then make it straight. But let's say you're way far out of the Control Z range and you can't undo it. How do you fix it? So I'm going to undo this and retwist the lines for you. So what you do is you select this button right here, which is the Edit Seam Lines button. Click on your edge and then press reverse seam line, and that will straighten out your edges and give you straight lines. So now it's just a matter of grabbing your segment sewing and sewing across and making sure all your lines are straight. And there should go. So once all your lines are sewn together, now it's time for the fun part, and that's bringing it together in the simulation. So I'm going to press play and it's going to simulate, and then there you go, we have a t-shirt. Now one of the things you may be worrying about, like, oh, that looks a little pixelated, not a very high quality. You can make the mesh denser, like increase the simulation on it. Now doing this is kind of I'm not sure what the right term is, but it's good and bad. Because it's good because it makes sure the simulation increases, you get a denser mesh, but the denser it is, that means the more polygons it is and the heavier it is, and some people severely frown upon it because they say that it causes lag and it can make the people's Second Life thing like very it causes lag and some other issues in Second Life. But when it comes to tiny avatars like this, you kind of have to have a denser mesh on it, because otherwise it's so tiny it doesn't look right, it doesn't act right. So when it comes to this avatar, I like to turn the particle distance up. So you go to like basic, and at the bottom says pattern. I like to turn the particle distance to like 10. It also strains your computer, so you see like the difference in that. Also, the lower the number, the denser the polygons are. The higher the number, the less dense they are. It's crazy. It's kind of reversed, but that's just the way it works. The downside to that is that, yeah, you get a better quality, smoother mesh, but it also takes more computer power to process that. So make sure that your computer isn't screaming to death when you make your clothes. Anyway, so now we have our t-shirt. We're going to move on to our pants, because that is actually a little problem area that comes when working on tiny avatars, and I'm going to need to address that in the next video. I hate this 10-minute thing. Curse you mobile people complaining that my videos suck up your data. Alright, so I'm going to be right back, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about pants and troubleshooting pants on tiny avatars. So I'll be right back.